Thank you so much for taking the time out to kind of sit down and chat with me. I suppose we should start right at the beginning. So, how did your love of wrestling start?
My dad was a wrestler and a promoter back in South Africa. Many people don't know this. In the 80s, South Africa was kind of an unofficial territory.
Okay.
So, I grew up watching a lot of greats. I watched Andre and Hogan come there, and a lot of people used to come there and live and work the territory, I guess. And
Hmm.
when I was 13, I started refereeing matches, and I always knew what I was going to do.
That's amazing. So, how did you go from then sort of being a referee and being a fan to sort of it becoming your job, your profession?
Well, I mean, I grew up a fan because I watched my dad do it every day, every weekend or whatever.
Hmm.
And he used to travel a lot. And back in the day, he used to bring me back VHS tapes from all around the world, because we didn't get much wrestling on TV except for the local stuff. And when I got exposed to Japanese wrestling and British wrestling and all this stuff, I kind of just combined all that styles because we didn't have a unique style like that in
Hmm.
South Africa. Like in Mexico, you have the
Yeah.
the lucha libre and the strong style in
Hmm.
Japan. So I kind of just combined all that stuff, and I just did whatever I saw other people do. And when I was 8 years old, I was like, man, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do with my
Hmm.
life, and I kind of just stuck with it. It took years and years of training and traveling the world and everything, but here I am.
Hmm. So, talking about sort of picking out moves and trying them. Obviously, we can't talk to you without mentioning that 450 splash, that iconic move that you've become associated with. How was it discovering that? Has that always been part of your arsenal? Was that something that was new, or how did that come about?
No, as a kid, I used to always do that on the trampoline. I used to do it from our house into the swimming pool. I always done that. I can remember when I started wrestling, I was doing the Phoenix Star Splash actually, and in the first match, I was just so tired. I couldn't hit it, so I kind of just climbed up for a normal 450 because it was an easier version, and I just hit it so perfect. Everyone was like, "Yep, just keep that," and I just kept it ever
Hmm.
since. That was like 25 years ago.
It must be quite difficult to sort of master in a way because you kind of while you're rotating, you can't see where your opponent is. So it obviously must have taken years of practice to sort of fine tune that into the ring.
Yeah, I mean, because I did started doing it from so young, it
Oh,
was just it was a natural thing, like when I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but everyone with kids, you kind of kids pick up stuff really quickly. It's like
hmm.
kids like just download these things, and I just because I've been doing it for since so young, I could always just hit it in any angle, anywhere in the ring, and just always perfect somehow. I don't know, like these days, I don't even like think about it. Sometimes I'm like, how do I even do that? Like I just climb up there and put my eyes when we're gonna land, and my body just does the rest.
Yeah. So obviously talking from going from South Africa then to the worldwide stage of WWE. So how did the sort of NXT experience come about? How did you end up there?
Oh, that was pretty cool. I mean, I always try to my first goal was to get into New Japan, and I tried for years and years and years, and it was just so hard
Hmm.
from South Africa because no one from South Africa has really made it big, um, except for like the Simpsons back in the day. I don't know how
Hmm.
far how your wrestling history goes. Um, even my mom was like, "Oh, no South African has ever made it," and I was like, "Perfect, then I'll be the first." And
Hmm.
then I just never gave up on that dream, and New Japan never contacted me back, and the WWE thing came around. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say no to the
Hmm.
contract. They moved me to Florida, and yeah, it took them like a year to get my work papers from South Africa. But
Hmm.
it's what a journey that was.
I can imagine, and obviously, you were a part of the season that was kind of different to the NXT that we see today, where you had mentors, and if I remember correctly, yours was Matt Hardy.
Correct.
How was it like? How did the mentorship affect either your wrestling or your relationship with Matt?
How I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, everybody who watches wrestling watches the Hardys, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, they were on WWF superstars back in the day when they were like 15, 16 years old. And, I started when I was 15, 16. It took me years and years to get where they were, but it was cool. It was just like we clicked. I remember him calling me, like, we didn't know who we were going to get partnered with. It was just like a random thing. And when he found out before I did, and he asked everyone, he was like, "Hey, what's that kid like? That kid like?" And everyone said to him, he's like a young AJ Styles. And that's the first thing he said to me. And I was like, wow, I'll take that as a massive compliment.
Yeah, and obviously a moment of appreciation for Matt, who is still absolutely killing it. whether it's TNA, AEW, WWE, still doing absolutely
Mm.
incredibly. So obviously from NXT, then you had well, probably one of the most memorable moments was that invasion, taking over the ring, um, totally destroying pretty much everything and causing havoc. What was that moment like before sort of going out to the ring, knowing that your intention was there to cause a scene?
I mean, it was kind of cool, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say nerve-wracking. I'm trying to recall the emotions. It was kind of weird, right? Because everything in wrestling is recycled. Like what's old is new, and what's new is old. There's hardly any like new things that happen in wrestling. A lot of young fans don't realize that, right? So usually you go study old storylines or characters or
Hmm.
feuds or whatever to get like ideas. And because this was such a unique new thing, we were like, I remember standing in Vince's office and all of us just looked at each other. We're like, okay, that's what you want. Like we didn't really realize at the time what we were meant to do. Kind of, I mean, we kind of knew what we
Yeah.
were supposed to do, but it was kind of surreal. And we just kind of went out there and did it, and a bunch of stuff just came naturally and flowed. And they were like, keep that, don't do that, keep that. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, so obviously, like the whole point of you going out with it was to cause an impact to kind of get your faces out there, names out there. I know you'd obviously been with NXT previously, but to get it to the sort of the main shows must have been a really like nerve wracking but exciting experience. So from there, then the Nexus did loads of stuff, but specifically you worked alongside some of the biggest names in wrestling. John Cena, Edge, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Kane. What was it like rubbing shoulders with these icons of the wrestling community?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool. You grow up watching these guys on
Mm.
TV, and then next thing you know, you're thrown in the deep end
Yeah.
with with I mean, obviously I had the skills and the knowledge and all that stuff, but you're kind of still nervous because you don't want to tread on any toes, and you kind of be careful of things you say, and you're kind of nervous. But once the bell rings, I'm a different person. It was great. What an experience, man. That's I don't really have the words to describe that, but it was really cool.
Yeah, and obviously going from being a fan to being in the ring, you know, attacking the heroes, the icons that you've grown up loving must have been kind of a strange thought process to go to. But it wasn't just sort of icons and established names that you worked alongside of. Your group was made up of some, emerging stars. You had the likes of Daniel Bryan, Wade Barrett, who have all made massive names for themselves. What is it like now looking at those names that made it, yourself included, so big? What is it like looking that we made our impact together?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's great memories and friendships I'll treasure forever. I mean, I speak to all these guys on a regular basis. They like my family. When I moved to the US, my whole family's still back in South Africa. So, I didn't have anyone to hang out with at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So the guys on the road, we were on the road constantly, became like my family. So it's kind of cool to have this kind of deep friendship, that
Hmm.
brotherhood that I never thought I'd have, and probably that I'll probably never have again. That's what's so cool about this
Hmm.
business. Wrestling's a universal language, and it's just and we just said in the beginning it was kind of nerve-wracking, but like you snap out of that real quick. And you're like, okay,
Hmm.
I'm here to do my job, and you just become one of the guys.
And obviously, you everyone has kind of gone their separate ways, but it's fantastic to hear that you're all still that brotherhood, still that community, and which is fantastic. Obviously, we have to take a moment to remember, obviously, Wyatt, who was also a part of your group, and um, under the name of Husky Harris, obviously made an impact as well. So, just do you have any sort of cherished memories of being working alongside Bray?
Wyndham was a really good friend of mine. He was one of the first friends I made when I moved to Florida. I will never forget that. I think I moved to the US right before Halloween, and he was one of the first kids I saw. And he's like, "Hey, you celebrate Halloween?" And I was like, "I know what it is. We
Mm.
don't celebrate it." He goes, "Well, you're coming to my party. Dress up as your favorite '80s wrestler." And I still have photos of that. I got to pull that up. It was incredible. What an experience! Like everyone came dressed as their favorite wrestlers. I gotta go down the list. Wade Barrett came as the Mountie. I dressed as a Hayabusa. There was just so many characters. Ryback was John Cena at the time. Like, so,
Mm.
man, like everyone. There was like 100 of us. People that you see on TV all the time were at that party, and me and Bray just kicked it off. You know, me and him and his brother, we've been friends since day one.
Hmm.
It's really sad. It was really sad. His wedding was coming up too, so it's kind of sad.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And obviously fans of wrestling will know that he was obviously an insanely talented and creative person. So obviously I just want to take a moment to kind of remember that the impact he's had. So moving on slightly then, after the Nexus and after all this stuff had happened, you were a part of the Rosebuds, part of Adam Rose's gang. I'm not sure if this is a commonly held secret, but you were a part of that. What was that like?
That was fun. You know, it was a few of us actually who played that character. It was me mostly because it was supposed to transition to the bunny doing crazy like stunts and 450s eventually and all that stuff. We just never got there. There's so many storyline ideas and pitches going around that maybe it just got lost in the shuffle, like most things do, because
Yeah.
the rosters are just so big these days and the writing team is so big. But it was fun, you know, because I grew up with Adam Rose. I think when I started wrestling at the age of 16, he was probably one of the first. We had a wrestling ring in our backyard. I don't know if I've ever told the story to anyone. We had a wrestling ring in our backyard, and he kind of saw that, and he was obviously a wrestling fan, and he used to jump the fence, and I saw this kid in the backyard, and I was like, wow, now I got someone to practice with. So we literally started together. We were tag team for years. We were best friends and literally bitter enemies. Like we beat the crap out of each other. And it was so cool that years later he got signed to WWE as well. It was kind of surreal. So I jumped on that. You
Hmm.
know, people always ask me, it was like, why did you do that? Were you getting punished or anything? I was like, no, I was having fun. Wrestling is fun. Like whatever I do, wrestling to me is fun. It's supposed to be fun, right? Like that was super fun to me. Like create this magic with my
Yeah.
long friend.
So obviously, looking back, it was fun and exciting. But what was that moment like when it was pitched to you that you would wear a full body outfit costume where no one could see it was you? What was that? What were your thoughts like at that point?
Well, I was like, cool. Nobody knows it's me, and I get to do some cool stuff, and I just get to like hang around and like
Hmm.
jump around and just be a fool, you know, like stuff that you wouldn't normally do, you know. So I jumped on that. I was like, this is great. This is gonna be awesome.
So after that, then moving on, then you via sort of GFW, you made a few appearances for TNA. What was it like wrestling inside a six-side ring as opposed to the classical the four-sided?
It was pretty cool, and I was pretty used to it. I lived in England from 2001 to 2005 or six,
Hmm.
and one of the promotions there had a six-sided ring, and so we trained in it for years, and we worked shows in it for years. So it was nothing new to me. It was pretty cool, actually.
Is there much of a difference then between a four-sided and six-sided in terms of how it functions?
Yeah, the ropes are slightly less or more bouncy. It's a little bit more bouncy because it's tight and it's cables.
Mhm.
The boards kind of move a little bit and there's slightly less space. You know, like I mean, every ring is different too. Like if you
Yeah,
work on the
totally.
independents, the WWE ring is completely different. You know, I just got back from Qatar last week, and that ring was completely different to any ring I've ever worked in. And you kind of just adapt. It could be scary for guys in the beginning, but you know, I've been in so many rings in the
Hmm.
last 25 years. It kind of you just kind of like adapt to it. And that's how you can tell how good wrestler is too, you know, like how quickly they adapt and look at their footwork. You know, like there's
Hmm.
guys like Steve Regal, for example, when he looks at talent, he doesn't even look like at the character or at he was a talent
Yeah.
scout for years. He'd look at footwork and how people can adapt. And he's like, okay, cool, this guy's great. That's how you can tell.
Hmm. And obviously, I know you mentioned the sort of the tension of the ring ropes and things like that. It must be even more of an adaptation for you, being known for your aerial skills and your high flying. That must be even more of a risk potentially, for you.
Totally, totally. But I mean, that's
Hmm.
that's what I thrive on is that extra risk, you know, because you have to make slight adjustments. Because like sometimes like things become so easy because we do it
Hmm.
300 days a year. Sometimes it just becomes like you become content. So if you're in a new ring or a new person, you have to kind of like adapt, and that kind of like sparks that fire in me again. A lot of people don't like that, but I was born a contrarian. I'm usually opposite to everyone else.
So on top of the sort of the new ring, there's also new match types in TNA. Specifically King of the Mountain, which you were lucky enough to win the King of the Mountain championship. What was your
On my
first
first match there.
Oh
that
yeah,
that was my first match there too. That was pretty cool.
what was the
It was very
experience of that
unique.
match type?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, wow, this is kind of like a reverse ladder match. Like it's so weird, you know. But I was like, well, whatever. This is your guys' stuff. So I'll kind of just adapt and play along. And I wish I could have done more in that match. I did some cool stuff, but I
Hmm.
wish I could have done so much more in that match. We were just so limited on time, and I was traveling for weeks, and that day came along, and I was just like, I got told like 20, 30 minutes before that happened what was going to happen. And I was like, oh man, like I wish I had some more preparation for that.
Hmm. Yeah, and sort of how was it sort of getting used to a new locker room then? Because obviously you were through GFW, so you had your own sort of locker room and community and gang, and then obviously in terms of the show, you were invading again, but you were mixing with the Impact locker room. What was that sort of mixture of two rosters like?
It was kind of cool. I loved working with Jeff and I loved our whole roster. And I've been around for so long, I knew most of the guys
Yeah,
there too. Some of them weren't happy with what we were doing, but like, I mean, it happens all the time. And I'm sure it happens in all kinds of companies and even different businesses too. Some people be happy, some people won't. Like, not everyone can be featured all the time or be in the
yeah.
cool matches or, have the cool promos. So, you kind of just get out there, do your job, do what you get paid for, and trying to put smiles on people's faces.
So I suppose you WWE, yeah, NXT, WWE, GFW, TNA. Sort of what's next? What's the goal? What's your big what's the big aim?
Well, you know what? I have no idea. I've been trying to get into New Japan for quite a while.
Hmm.
I did all the American shows. It went really well. I don't know. It seems like the economy is really bad in Japan for some reason. I don't know what's happening there. I just I've been trying some new stuff. I got this new character that I haven't like fully pulled the trigger on.
Hmm.
Like the shaman doctor character is very gimmicky. Bray Wyatt was actually helping me with this stuff. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like that character, but it's kind of like a version of that, like
Hmm.
very like esoteric, enigmatic character. And I haven't really pulled the trigger on it yet. I've been thinking, should I do it on TV or should I just do it on the indies? I've approached some companies and they all like it. For most, the WWE writers were like, wow, that's so weird. Like, that's too weird, but I want to know where that's going, And
Hmm.
then the other TV companies are like, can you just be Darewolf? So I've been like, negotiating with negotiating with them. Nothing set in stone. Nothing like doesn't look like anything's gonna happen. But whatever, never say never. Yeah, I might just, now with social media and all these independent companies streaming online, I might just pull the trigger on that.
Hmm.
I'm kind of like waiting. I don't know, waiting for the right time. I don't know when the right time is, but I feel like I'm in my prime only now after wrestling
Hmm.
for 25 years. So like like the wrestling stuff I could do. It's just the character stuff that I never had like
Hmm.
down. So that's what I've been working on a lot.
Hmm.
And I can't wait to show people what it is. But I've been taking a lot of international bookings. I just got back from Qatar last week. The wrestling is massive worldwide right now.
Hmm.
Wow. The week before that, I was in Jamaica. The month before that, I was in Australia for a whole month teaching seminars. And, I try to take bookings now to places where I want to go,
Yeah.
like, because WWE, we got to go to all these countries. I've wrestled in 66 countries, but, some of the places you're just in and out. You see the airport and the
Yeah.
arena and the hotel. So now I take bookings like, if Barcelona calls, I'm like, yeah, I'll go there and I'll spend a week there. And wrestling's booming in Europe right now. I might
Hmm.
I, I might go to the UK and Europe in December. I'm working on a couple of bookings now, and then next year I'll kind of reset and see where I'm at.
Hmm. So I'm kind of glad you brought it up about new characters. So what is the new the sort of how do you pitch a new character? How does that sort of process go for you specifically?
Ah, yeah, so it's different for everyone. Like because it's very character based. So it's a lot of promos and
Hmm.
vignettes. You remember like how they shot the old school vignettes back in the day?
Yeah.
I shot a lot of it myself. Like I live in Los Angeles, so I have a lot of friends who were in film, so they kind of helped me with some of the props and like some of the editing. And there's a lot of like graphics involved, and there's a lot of props. It's very gimmicky. In wrestling, you always want to like give them too much so they can be like, okay, for TV, we can kind of pull it back. It's hard for them to be like, we want more,
So
So
you
it's
create sort
it's
of a video package. Is that what sort of you send them a snippet of what the character would do, feel, and act?
Yes, exactly. And for newer guys, it doesn't work like that. But because I've worked with all these
Hmm.
people for years and years, for me, it's a little bit different. So I kind of just contact them. I'm like, hey, would you guys be interested in in seeing this? see a little bit more of this? Yes or no?
Mm. Um, so obviously kind of detached from wrestling now. I did notice that you went to DragCon this year. What was that experience like?
That was pretty cool. I mean, people don't realize wrestling and dragging is kind of like the same thing. We're playing
Hmm.
a character. Like a lot of my friends in drag, like they're super straight, and like I have a lot of friends that are from all spectrums of the rainbow. Like
Mhm. Yeah,
it's an art form. It's an art form, and I feel like wrestling is an art form, and all the stuff going on and on TV. People are like, oh, we're gonna ban this and ban this. I'm like, but then you're gonna have to ban theater and
yeah.
wrestling because it's all the same. I actually and I was with the Taya Valkyrie, and she loves that shit because she's a, excuse my language, she loves to like glam up and dress up, and she has
Mm.
a lot of friends in that business. So it was fun to hang out with her. I try to go every year. I'm actually pitching a wrestling show next year. I wanna wrestle some of them.
Wow. So like obviously being a drag fan myself, I know there was a there was a wrestling challenge on Drag Race many moons ago. I think it was
Oh,
one of the first,
I missed that.
second
I
or
missed
third
that.
season, and that was also very character based, obviously due to limited experience and training. But yes,
Yeah.
that was a nice little crossover of the wrestling world and sort of drag as an art form.
Yeah, and I met so many people who were into wrestling and so many people who weren't into wrestling, but they were like once I started talking to them, like, wow, I really want to check this out. And
Hmm.
like I followed them on Instagram and they follow me and they watch stuff like, and a lot of them I've had three queens like ask me how they can get into it, and I send them to
Wow.
wrestling schools. I don't know if they took it up, but
Hmm.
some of them are extremely athletic. I mean, those that drop they do that takes some
That's right.
freaking skill.
So my final question is, where can people stay up to date with you and where you're going and where you're going, where you're touring to next?
Yeah, I'm quite active on Instagram, PJ450. I post a lot of stuff on there. I'm busy posting the photos from Qatar from last
Mhm.
weekend. I still have to edit the videos from Australia. I'll upload all the pictures from Jamaica. There's so much stuff. I'm so far behind all that stuff, but I'm very active on there. I think you reached me on there.
Yeah,
Like a lot, most of the podcasts reached me through there, so that's probably the best way to keep in contact these days. I know there's so many other
yeah.
ones these days, TikTok and a Snap's a thing. I don't even know. Like it's hard to keep up. I kind of just play around with Instagram all the time.
And I suppose, obviously, as you said about going around all over the world and sort of all these social medias, obviously the best way to contact you is through Instagram. I mean, I'll put the link in the description so people can just scroll down and click away. But I will end the same way I started, just by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. Obviously, I am a big fan as well, so it means a lot, not only professionally but also as a fan of you and wrestling in general. So,
Ah, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
Bye bye.